Laci Peterson, a 27-year-old pregnant woman from Modesto, California, was a beloved wife, daughter, and friend. Her story became one of the most infamous and widely covered criminal cases of the early 2000s, captivating the nation and revealing the twisted depths of betrayal. Laci was 8 months pregnant when she vanished from her home on December 24, 2002. Her husband, Scott Peterson, claimed that he had gone to a nearby warehouse that morning to fish while Laci spent the day wrapping Christmas presents. When he returned home in the early afternoon, Laci was nowhere to be found. The couple's dog, a golden retriever named Mackenzie, was found wandering outside, but there was no sign of Laci. Her keys, purse, and car were still inside the house. Scott immediately called the police, and within hours, a search for Laci began. As the hours turned into days, authorities became increasingly suspicious of Scott's story. There were inconsistencies in his account, and investigators soon discovered troubling details about his life. The couple's relationship had been somewhat strained in recent months, and Scott had been carrying on an affair with a woman named Amber Frey, whom he had met in November 2002. Despite the growing suspicion surrounding Scott, investigators had no concrete evidence to charge him. The case quickly captured national attention, with the media covering every new detail and the Peterson family pleading for Laci's safe return. Meanwhile, the search for Laci intensified, with authorities combing through Modesto and surrounding areas. On April 13, 2003, almost 4 months after Laci's disappearance, 2 bodies were found washed up along the shoreline of the San Francisco Bay. The bodies were identified as Laci Peterson and her unborn son Connor. An autopsy revealed that Laci had been murdered, and the cause of death was determined to be strangulation. Connor had also been killed, but the exact cause of his death was unclear. The discovery of Laci's body was a devastating blow to her family and friends, but it also marked the beginning of the legal battle that would ultimately bring her killer to justice. Authorities had gathered enough evidence to arrest Scott Peterson, who was charged with 2 counts of murder, 1 for Laci and 1 for Connor. He was also charged with the special circumstance of murdering a pregnant woman. The trial of Scott Peterson began in 2004, and it became a media sensation. Prosecutors presented a mountain of evidence against him, including the discovery of Laci's body near where Scott had claimed to be fishing. They argued that Scott had murdered Laci to be with his mistress, Amber Frey, and that he had lied to investigators and the public about his actions on the day of her disappearance. Throughout the trial, the defense team tried to argue that there was no direct evidence linking Scott to the crime, and they suggested that Laci's death could have been the result of an unknown intruder. However, the prosecution's case was compelling, and the jury convicted Scott Peterson of 2 counts of murder in November 2004. The sentencing phase of the trial was highly emotional, with Laci's family members speaking about the pain and loss they had endured. Scott Peterson was ultimately sentenced to death by lethal injection, and he was placed on death row at San Quentin State Prison. The case had a profound impact on public opinion, and it sparked heated debates about issues such as the death penalty and the justice system. Some people believed that Scott's actions were unforgivable, while others questioned whether the death penalty was the appropriate punishment for his crime. In the years since his conviction, Scott Peterson's case has been the subject of numerous appeals and legal challenges. In 2020, the California Supreme Court ruled that Peterson's death sentence should be overturned due to errors made during the sentencing phase of his trial. However, his conviction for the murders of Laci and Connor Peterson still stands. Laci Peterson's tragic death is a heart-wrenching reminder of the dangers of betrayal and the devastating consequences that can arise from violence.